Welcome to another edition of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. Today, I got my buddy Jeff hailing from the beautiful country of Canada. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing amazing, man. I'm just enjoying the smoky sun out here, but every day above ground's a good day.
Heck yeah, man. You know, the sun is always shining. You just have to get through the clouds. I love that saying.
It's true, man. It really is true. Took me a long time to realize that in my life, but it's true.
Yep. So, if you're listening to this, you're probably here because you want to know how to be more happy and how to find joy. So, Jeff, how does one do that?
That is a really good question. It's one of the questions I get from my clients all the time. When people with anxiety come to me, they always ask, how do I heal this anxiety? How do I let go of this anxiety? And what I tell them is, your need to know how is actually the thing that keeps you from true joy and peace. And so by constantly needing to search for healing, search for how to get rid of this thing, creates more worry, which creates more fear, which creates more anxiety, which creates more symptom. And the cycle keeps going and going and going. So a lot of people want to know, how do I get rid of this? But what they really need to be asking is a better question, and a question of, instead of how, instead of what's keeping me from true joy and true peace, and why do I need anxiety? I really show people like a part of them actually needs anxiety because it keeps them safe from who they truly are in joy, love, and peace.
All right. So, that is radically different from most of the stuff you hear, right? On how to treat anxiety. It's way different from what Western medicine says how to treat anxiety. The second part, I got I got loud and clear that a part of you wants the anxiety, because I believe that's true, and I actually teach that too. But let's focus on what you said at first. Anxiety is caused by the need of people wanting to search for an answer. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I love this so much because there's a short little story that illustrates it so well. And it starts at the beginning. And when I say this story, I'm not talking about religion or anything. It's just an overview of how it happens and how our mind can better understand the need and constant search of how. So, as we know this story, right? Adam and Eve are naked and unashamed in the garden. They have nothing to hide. Everything is provided for, everything is abundant. And there's one thing in this garden that gets put in the garden, and it's the tree of knowledge. Now, it's important to realize that they didn't know they were naked. And once they ate this tree of knowledge, then they had to hide their nakedness and their shame from each other and from God. And so when you look at the tree of knowledge, it's all about how our need to know was the thing that separated us from being at peace in who we were and enjoying who we were in our nakedness and unashamed in who we are. And so it really illustrates how we're not meant to know. And if we know too much, that becomes the new disease. You know, like if someone were to say, tell me what is God? How is God and all this stuff? It's, you can't even fathom that complexity and that creativeness that goes into that one word. It's impossible. Our brain would just explode. And so what I really show people is, when we accept I don't know, that's when we can truly embrace every moment of the unknown and use it and enjoy it when it comes into our lives. So coming back to the story, just to cap it off, where the one command was, don't eat the fruit of this tree, else you'll surely die. And what happens? The fruit of this tree gets eaten. And Adam and Eve have to hide their nakedness because now they are aware, they know that they are naked. And then God says to Adam and Eve, did you eat the fruit of the tree? And he says, well, I did, and it was Eve who gave it to me. And so they're looking to like blame the need to know on another person or another source. And it really makes me laugh, because God already knew that if they answered, they knew that they were naked. And so in this story, it's really just to illustrate how our need to know was the thing that separated us from true joy and peace. And we have a humanistic need to search, to get the diagnosis, to figure out why this is happening, how this is happening, how I can fix it, what I can do. And constantly going in that direction keeps us from the truth of who we are. And so if we look at the message of Christ, it was to rest in the peace that transcends all understanding, all knowing, all belief. And so when we utilize that in our mind, we find peace and rest. And when we utilize that in our spirit, we renew it to the childlike joy of just being free as children, naked and unashamed in the garden. So I really love that story to share with people because it illustrates it so well.
So in essence, you hear a lot. Eckhart Tolle just had this amazing podcast with Lewis House about, and he talks about the cross, like predating way before Christianity, and he talks
Yeah.
about how this axis is being and the horizontal axis is doing. And if you stay on this horizontal axis, you'll never get to the being because you're always doing. Are you, in essence, saying that the anxiety, the depression, all of the stuff that so many people in this world struggle with is because they're not just being that being, they're trying to do and they're trying to search?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Interesting.
And I'm saying that there's a joy that can't be bought. And there's a peace that makes no sense. And there's a peace that is not of this world, that nothing that we acquire, attain, or get, or do, achieve, or have that will ever give us true peace. It's fleeting. And so if we want true joy and true peace, we need to see that it comes, whether you believe it or not, it comes from God. It comes from letting go to something greater so that we can rest in something that is providing. Because if we're always doing and striving, the energy of that is that we don't trust that we can receive in not doing and simply being, right? So there's a, yeah, go ahead.
So you speak about returning to a childlike state as a path to this happiness, this joy, this getting rid of anxiety. How can our listeners begin this journey, and what might they rediscover about themselves along the way?
Yeah. So there's this verse that says, "Truly I tell you, until you change and become converted as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of God." And so what people need to realize is that the joy in the simple things. You remember when we were a child and we could find joy in like the little intricacies of a flower or a bee or just the simple sound of someone sneezing or whatever it is. Those are the little joys that we need to remember and we need to bring into our lives and start to notice them and start to play more. Start to play more. Like, this life is short, man. And I think people forget as we become adults that we are silly, we're fun, we're playful, and to not take life so seriously. Like, I always have with my clients, I'm like, life's like one big fart. Like, you don't know how it's going to come out, and sometimes it's shit.
Yeah. So more about childlike state. I love this because I talk about this all the time. We lose our connection over time to ourselves. And who are we at our essence? What does a child do at 2 years old or 3 years old? They're going up to complete strangers. There's no prejudice. They're hugging. If someone slights them or takes their ball, they're still going to play with them. They will get in front of a crowd and they will sing their heart out. They will dance. They don't care. And that's who we are at our core. But we have all these filters that are put on our heart that have been placed there to get us through this stressful time that we all live through at some point in our life.
That's it. And to be a child in a world of adults is seen as being immature, but it's actually being free.
Wow.
Right? It really is. And I think it's important we have both sides, but also, like you said, the balance of the cross. We can be so out of balance that we forget how to be children. And we can be so out of balance in being a child that we forget to be an adult. So it goes in both ways, but I find sometimes, mostly as as I go along my adult years, is that like I feel like I'm a kid on a little ride, and I'm just like, wow, this is crazy, and I'm just like looking at all the little things. And I tell you from the bottom of my heart and from experience, like it's the little things. It's the little things that bring so much joy. It's the like it's like the dog jumping over the fence and like smashing his face and his tongue's all like, it's just these little tiny things that we forget that are so precious in life. And yeah, and it comes back to happiness, like to truly do something in this life that you are happy about doing and enjoying what you do. Like it's so short. You have to do what you love. You have to.
Heck yeah. How many adults do you know personally, Jeff, that can get up in front of a music festival or a bar where there's music playing or there's a band and dance without having any alcohol or any drugs in their system?
Not many, man. I
Not
really
many.
don't. I don't know too many. I know maybe, honestly, I probably know about 5 or 7 adults that would really actually be that free to the point where they would do it,
Yeah.
And like and I'm talking about like I've shown up with adults and they're like, what are you on, or what are you like, what drug? I'm like, I'm on the Holy Spirit, bro. Like it's something after doing drugs and doing ayahuasca and doing mushrooms that I realized, like, holy crap, I needed those things in order to be myself. I needed those things in order to be free. And then I realized I didn't need them. I was just afraid to be free in who I truly was.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I dance around the gym quite frequently, and there's 100 people in the gym, and there may be one other person dancing, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people judging me, saying, "What's wrong with that guy?" And then I'm sure there's a bunch of people being like, "Whoa, I wish I could be like that guy." And it used to be, it
Yes.
used to all be tied to I'd only dance if I was making a lot of money because it made me feel good about myself, and if I was having a bad month, I wouldn't feel comfortable dancing. And now it doesn't matter if I'm having a good or bad month. I dance all the time, and it's it, like you said, the word freeing. It's completely freeing. So Jeff, let's talk about specifics. Like it's easy to
Yeah.
say, "Oh, just be like a child." But how does someone,
Yes.
you get a call, "Hey, I'm Harry from whatever, Washington
Yeah.
D.C. I've got severe anxiety, Jeff." You certainly don't just
Yes.
say, "Well, Harry, just go be a child." Like, what do you do? What are the steps that you walk through someone through to get them back to this childlike state?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. So, I'll share something that kind of illustrates it. So, I once asked this little girl at a commune once at a breath retreat a long time ago. I asked her, I said, hey, Livy, what's the answer to life? And she said, oh, no, birds and swings. And I said, okay, birds and swings. And then I asked her again the next day, and I said, hey, Livy, what's the answer to life? And she said, cats and dogs. I was like, I thought you said it was birds and swings. And she's like, nah, whatever I'm enjoying from my face. And I was like, wow, that is profound. And she looked at me, and she's like, you're weird. I'm going to go play dragons. And so what I would say to that person who comes in, first I would say, rule number 1, you cannot talk about anxiety anymore. Talking about it is still giving it attention. And then I would start to bring them in the direction of being safe in joy, love, and peace. So what I've come to see is that those 3 things are who we truly are. And we've had experiences where joy, love, and peace, we were open and free, expressive, or we used our voice or whatever it was. and those things were not accepted, liked, loved, and wanted. So that person needs to start to have that experience in their own life where that is not true, where they are accepted in their joy, they are accepted and loved, and they are accepted at peace as well. See, a lot of people who have experience with anxiety is because they grew up in households that was chaos and that was familiar, and joy, love, and peace felt like a setup.
Yeah. So
I would start to bring them in the direction of feeling safe in the little bits of joy, the little bits of love, the little bits of peace, and getting their nervous system more acquainted to, oh wow, this is what joy feels like. Oh wow, like I'm not gonna die if I, decide to dance on the crosswalk and I hear an awesome song, or like I see a bird and I want to do a voiceover for it. I'm not gonna die and I'm not gonna be judged. And then getting them to realize that people will not like your joy. They will not like your light, because your light shines on all the parts that are dark in them. And part of this journey is to realize that when you truly stop caring about what others think, about the weirdness that you are or whatever you do, it's just kind of like this dance that happens, like you said.
Yeah, for 47 years, I told the story, the untrue story, that I didn't care what people thought about me. But if I didn't care what other people thought about me, why couldn't I get in front of a bar and dance without being high or drinking, right? But I told myself that lie for many, many, many years. So,
Right.
Yeah, I developed this quiz really for me, because if we'd had this conversation a couple of years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, I've got tons of self-love. I love myself. I have high self-esteem, but I didn't. So if you're one of those people like thinking, I
Right.
wonder how much this is affecting my life, you can probably tell by your results and your relationships and your health. But if you want to find out for sure, just go to bradchandler.com/quiz. And you can take the quiz and it will tell you what your self-esteem is like. So Jeff, let's go back to this fictitious Harry who's got this terrible anxiety, and he was beat repeatedly as a child. His father told him he was worthless.
Right.
How and so the anxiety is caused by that, but Harry doesn't even know that. And you go tell Harry, hey, stop talking about anxiety, start living in peace, start dancing. Like, does that really work? Like, how can you take someone who's got severe anxiety and just be like, oh, start dancing around the crosswalks and having fun?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, one of the things that I see in the healing community is it's a lot about rewiring the mind, rewiring the beliefs, rewiring all these different things in the mind. But what I've noticed in people is that they don't have to rewire their minds by them experiencing more joy and leaning into more joy, love, and peace. Their mind will rewire to learn how to be safe in those experiences. So it's that mindset of de-mindsetting what they thought they needed to heal in the mind, to change it, to keep rewiring it, which brings more attention. So there's different levels to the healing journey, but it really comes back to showing that person that where they put their focus is where they put their attention. And like anything, it just takes a little bit of time to start to realize that, oh my God, that story or that thing that I had happen when I was a kid or whatever, that thing, the beating or whatever it was, that wasn't even mine. And so I start to let them see a different perspective, because they took an identity from that experience and said, I am this, and if I am this, I am not loved, so I better be this. And so little bits I would get them to explore. Like, for instance, one of the things I did with my clients, I was like, okay, this week I want you to go out and I just want you to compliment 10 different people. Just compliment them. It doesn't have to be any specific way. It doesn't have to make sense. It can just be something like, wow, I like your hair, or oh my gosh, you have beautiful teeth, or whatever it is, just to get used to the fact that by being in their light, it's going to be welcomed. And then we start to build on the foundation of being able to dance, being able to do all these things. And what I love about this is that people start to see they're not going to be free by trying to stay in the mind, because the mind is what kept them imprisoned from their heart.
So if they don't stay in the mind, where do they stay?
In the heart.
In the heart.
Yeah. That's why I love what Christ said, the peace that transcends all understanding. The moment where we live life as an I don't know canvas, that's the playfulness of a child of the heart. That's the moment where we want to make the joke, we want to hit on that girl, we want to play, we want to dance across the crosswalk. And it just starts to basically come into their life in every little which way. And it becomes the fabric of who they are. They don't have to constantly rewire their mind to be a belief system of who they are. It's just who they are.
So, Jeff, tell us about your transformative journey and how this transformation has shaped you to what you do now, and what is the legacy that you hope to leave?
Yeah, I love that. Well, so I speak from experience. I had 8 years of chronic pain, autoimmune disease. I was supposed to be in a wheelchair, and I was 25, 90 food sensitivities. I went through it all. I was like going to the depths of hell, the darkness, and trying to heal. And I tried everything. I tried every possible thing you can imagine to heal. I did ayahuasca, I did mushrooms, I did all these different psychedelics. I tried ozone injection therapy. I tried drinking hydrogen peroxide for 70 days, 3 times a day on an empty stomach. Like I was addicted to healing, because if I wasn't healing, who was I? And what happened was, then I got a diagnosis from these medical professionals, and I have nothing wrong against medical professionals, but we have to be aware that when we're searching for answers to a diagnosis, and someone in a position of authority gives us that diagnosis, that becomes the new identity that we speak, live, move, think, breathe, and act and relate to others in. And so I got this diagnosis, and the doctor said, you know, most people end up in a wheelchair, and blah, 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 blah. And guess what? My body started to go to that direction, because that's what the authority told me. And then what I realized at one point is I had enough. And this was the beautiful part. And I talk to a lot of people who come to this point in their journey where they're just so sick of anxiety, they're so sick of symptoms, and they're just like, I'm done. And they get to the point where they don't want to live anymore. And what happens is they get to this point, and this is what happened to me, is that I get to this point and I said, I give up. I give it up. Right? Isn't that interesting? I give it up. So this thing that was like, you know, running my life, I gave it up. And I dropped down to one knee, and I had this amazing experience, and I encountered Jesus in that moment, and it changed my life. And what happened later on, as I realized why I healed and what happened from that, is that I didn't heal. I just returned back to wholeness. And that's the legacy that I want to leave with people, is that there's nothing to heal. There's nothing to fix. You are whole. You are complete. The new disease is trying so hard to heal, to fix it, to change it, when God is saying every single part of you is amazing. And that's the thing that I want to show people, is that true joy and true peace come when we stop trying to heal what was never broken.
Wow.
That's what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. So, wow, you said a lot of stuff in there, a lot of good things. One of the things you said is when you got your diagnosis, when they
Yeah,
told you that you were going to be in a wheelchair, you started living that way. And
I
there's
did.
a lot of people listening that are saying, "Yeah, that guy must be smoking something now because that's impossible. Like, there's
Yeah,
no way that your body can change based on your thoughts." And if you want to read some really interesting material for some really smart guys, check out
yeah,
Joe Dispenza's "You Are the Placebo" or Dr. Gabor Mate, someone who I've studied underneath, called "The Myth of Normal." And the entire books are about how your mind creates a lot of the disease in you. And
yes.
when you hear the words autoimmune or you hear the words idiopathic, and idiopathic is just there's no known cause. Autoimmune, same
Hmm.
thing. It's like your immune system attacking itself, right? There
Yeah,
is a cause. And the
yeah,
cause is your thinking. And the thinking comes from the stress that you were under as a child. And so if you are listening to this and you've been told that you have an autoimmune disease, inflammation that can't be fixed, or an idiopathic disease and you need to be on drugs or doing this, you can just say Jeff and I are crazy, and so is Joe Dispenza, and so is Dr. Gabor Mate. Or you can be like, well, I've tried everything else. I've tried Western medicine. I've tried drugs. I've tried therapy. None of it worked. Maybe, maybe these guys, the four of us, and it's not just the four of us, there's a lot more people in the world that believe this. Maybe they're on to something. Maybe all this anxiety and depression is causing all of these illnesses in us. So it's you're a human being. You get to decide. That's a beautiful thing. You can live your life however you want. I just
yeah,
know that science is saying more and more that most illnesses are caused by our brain and
yeah.
our eating habits and our lifestyle. But our bad eating habits and our lifestyle are caused by the same exact thing. Is
The,
this need to improve and get better, right?
yeah, yeah. And I think that's a valid point too, is that there's nothing wrong with improving and getting better, but there is something wrong when we start to pressure ourselves and need to improve to get better instead of just more there we go. Instead of just more enjoying the thing that we're doing. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been in the gym and I'm just enjoying my workout. I have the best workouts. Like there's something so different about it. And I think that's the key difference is to take the pressure off of needing to be more instead of just enjoying being who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, deep, deep, beautiful message. It's not what you find in most textbooks on how to cure anxiety. Is anxiety kind of your specialty? Is that what you focus on more than anything?
Yeah, so at first I used to help people with the very specific autoimmune disease called ankylosing spondylitis, and that's like arthritis in your spine, your hips, and it's can be quite debilitating for a lot of people who go through it. And I went through it myself, and that was like what I was focusing on. But then I saw that it wasn't actually about autoimmune disease; it was about the worry of moving forward in their lives. And then I was like, oh, cool. Well, I'm going to go in the direction of helping people with anxiety and start to show them that it's the worry about themselves that when they say express themselves, they're worried that something bad is going to happen. So say if someone never had the chance to use their voice and they speak up in a room and they want to share something, there's a part of their brain that doesn't feel safe after that experience because that's when they got hurt. And so when they realize that they are safe, that's when they start to realize that they didn't have an autoimmune disease. They didn't have this thing. They had the thing that was getting in the way of just being free in who they are. So that begs the question, why do we need coaches? Why do we need these people to help us? It comes back to what I was saying about we were naked and ashamed in the garden. But shame is the result of having to hide from one another our nakedness. And so we can't do it alone. We need to be seen, heard, and supported in the things that weren't accepted, loved, liked, and wanted. So that's the important thing is to realize that you can't play tag with one person on the playground.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Jeff, amazing stuff. How can people reach you?
So if people want to get in touch with me and find more true joy and peace in their life, I teach from a space of showing people what is true joy and true peace that leads them to truth. And if they want to get in touch with me, it's on Instagram at mind_body_healer. And there's a link in my bio that they can click on to book a call and go from there. And it's for people who really are truly ready to let go of the identity and the story that keeps them from being free.
Love it. Love it. All right. Thanks, Jeff, for being with us. That concludes another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. If you want more happiness, we can show you a pathway to do it. So reach out to one of us. If you like it, please share it. Please subscribe it. And until next time, remember, love heals all.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, thanks for having me on. And I'm super glad that your listeners get to chew on some information that can never quite be understood, but always in the heart.
Love it.